She was never pregnant at all. Instead, the videos embolden conspiracy theorists. They're calling it Megspiracy.
This case about whether you think the birth was real, whether you think there was a surrogate, whether you think Meghan was wearing a moon bump. The fact is, Harry and Meghan lied. Buckingham Palace lied on their behalf. There was a complete cover-up over the birth of
Princess Lilibet Diana had been christened. Why would they use a title for their children that represents an institution they loathe so?
This whole situation is turning into a serious cross-Atlantic conversation, blowing up in both the US and the UK at the same time. Right at the centre of it all is something unfolding quietly behind Buckingham Palace doors, kept low-key and tightly controlled, with barely anyone willing to speak on it out loud. This is not playing out like some loud, messy scandal in public. Instead, everything is being handled in a calm, calculated, almost secretive way, which is exactly what's throwing people off. And here's the twist that has everyone talking. The spotlight reportedly isn't on Prince Harry, and it's not directly on Meghan Markle either. The attention is said to be shifting toward Archie and Lilibet, their official records, their royal titles, and exactly where they stand in the line of succession. Then things take an even sharper turn. There are claims circulating about paperwork issues, missing signatures, and questions tied to key documents that should be airtight. Some reports even mention a christening that allegedly doesn't have a formal church record connected to it, which is raising serious eyebrows because royal traditions usually have those details locked in without question. All of this has sparked heavy speculation in certain circles, and people are starting to talk more openly behind the scenes. Reports claim Meghan is feeling real pressure at their Montecito home as the situation keeps building.
What Harry and Meghan need to do is prove to us that she popped those babies out. If they don't, it is unfair on the children. It's also unfair on the royal family because it puts the royal family in a very invidious position, because the royal family, there are certain things they can and can't do by law, and Meghan and Harry know that.
Harry and Meghan have never provided any evidence for that highly incendiary claim. It's not like they haven't had the chance to. After all, they pumped out 6 hours of self-indulgent bilge on Netflix, trashing Britain and the press for its racism.
This crisis won't die down until the irrefutable truth comes out.
If even a small part of these claims holds weight, this could open the door to a much bigger conversation than anyone saw coming. He keeps coming back to one question that a lot of major outlets seem to avoid, and it hits hard every single time. If Harry and Meghan are still using their Sussex titles in business deals, partnerships, and branding, while also presenting themselves as separate from the royal institution, how do those two things actually work side by side without clashing? This situation is heating up fast, and every new detail is stacking onto the story like crazy. You can feel things shifting in real time, and people are paying close attention because something bigger seems to be building. So what is really going on here? That is the question everyone keeps asking, and Piers Morgan is not easing up at all. He is going straight at it, calling the entire situation hypocrisy on a massive level, and he is not softening his words either. According to him, those royal titles are not just formal labels sitting quietly on paper. They are being used everywhere. Every public appearance, every major deal, every brand move, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex title stays front and center like it is part of the main show. It is no longer just about identity, it is being pushed like a full-scale brand to the world. And now things are shifting even further, with attention moving toward the next generation. With Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet being introduced more publicly, it brings more visibility, more attention, and naturally more value tied to those names.
Everything that Meghan is doing in her pursuit to become a lifestyle billionaire goes completely against the agreement that she made with Prince Harry not to exploit their children for commercial gain.
Harry and Meghan playing games that resulted in people unnecessarily questioning things. Every toxicity thing is result of them.
Now they want to give their kids the titles of prince and princess, even though they don't live anywhere near the royal family. They don't do any duties, they do nothing to deserve it. They live in a mansion in Montecito in California and use their own royal title to make loads of money.
That alone is enough to get people talking in a serious way, and Piers Morgan did not hold back at all. He came right out and framed it as cash, not just status, and the second he said that, it struck a nerve with a lot of people watching. You could feel the reaction instantly, because this is where things start getting uncomfortable for some. And now he is pushing even harder, turning up the pressure even more. This is no longer just about Harry and Meghan as individuals. It is growing into something much bigger. The conversation has expanded, and now the focus is shifting toward what these titles could mean for Archie and Lilibet specifically. That shift makes everything feel way more intense, almost overnight. Suddenly, people are looking at the bigger picture, questioning how these titles connect to future opportunities and public visibility. There are also claims being discussed that Meghan's push toward building a major lifestyle brand could be clashing with earlier expectations about keeping family life more private, which is adding even more tension to the situation. And then there is the Oprah interview, which still plays a huge role in this entire conversation. Piers Morgan has repeatedly pointed to it as a key moment that shaped how the royal family was viewed by the public. During that interview, Meghan shared that Archie had not been given a royal title and suggested it was connected to concerns about his skin color, which added a deeply emotional layer to an already complicated situation. That claim spread fast and hit like a shockwave across the media. At the time, Piers Morgan pushed back strongly, arguing that the story was being misrepresented and not fully explained. He pointed directly to long-standing royal rules, especially the letters pattern established during King George V's era, which outlined who receives royal titles and when under that system. The situation was never as simple as it sounded during that interview, and now the debate is coming back stronger than ever. Everything is starting to connect again, especially around how these titles are being used today and what they actually represent moving forward. This is where the facts begin cutting through the noise, flipping the entire angle of the story in a way that people cannot ignore. Under long-established royal rules, great-grandchildren of a monarch do not automatically receive prince or princess titles. That is a general rule, not something aimed at any one individual.
With either Archie or Lily, and it needs to happen. They need to prove that those children, Meghan and Harry, are not entitled to privacy in this matter. And their privacy is trumped by our right to know that no bastard is going to sit on the throne of this country.
Apparently, they invited all the royals to Lilibet's christening, but they all declined to come, as if they're all going to get on a plane and fly to California to embrace the people who've been trashing them for the last 3 years. But it looks like from the jungle drums, they had been invited.
A lot of the royal watchers were complaining that they felt like her posts on social media where she barely shows the kids is almost taunting the king, who doesn't know these children, and how unfair that.
In Archie's case, the timing simply did not line up under those rules at the time, which challenges how the situation was presented publicly and raises more questions than before. Piers Morgan has been very direct about this point, even calling the claim a lie, and saying it was shared with millions about an institution that usually stays silent in real time. Now that same claim is being pulled right back into the spotlight, and it is creating even more tension as people revisit on what was said and how it was understood. Reports suggest this is one reason the palace is taking a closer look at everything connected to these titles from the ground up, including details linked to Archie and Lilibet and why it is becoming such a serious focus. That means documents, records, timelines, everything is reportedly under review, and according to ongoing reports, what is being examined is raising eyebrows in certain circles. But that is exactly why this situation is picking up speed again. And now, here is where things really start to escalate. Piers Morgan is no longer the only one raising concerns. Reports coming out of the United States, including coverage from News Nation, are lining up with what royal watchers have been talking about for weeks now, and this is where things take a sharp turn. There are even claims that Prince William could be considering major changes when it comes to royal titles, not just for Harry and Meghan, which pushes this whole situation to another level completely. According to these reports, the conversation might not stop with Harry and Meghan at all. It could extend directly to Archie and Lilibet too, pulling all four names into the same high-stakes discussion. That shift alone raises the pressure in a big way, because now it is not just about one couple, it is about the next generation as well. Sources are saying this is not some distant possibility, but something that could actually happen depending on how everything unfolds. From here, Piers Morgan keeps pointing back to past royal situations to explain why this matters so much. He brings up figures who stayed closely tied to the institution while facing intense public scrutiny, showing that this kind of tension is not new, it just looks different this time. In his view, all of this builds toward a much bigger question that cannot be ignored. How are these titles really being used? What do they truly represent, and where is the line supposed to be drawn when public image and royal responsibility start clashing? Piers Morgan is making his stance very clear, and he is not holding back at all. He argues that the momentum behind Harry and Meghan may be slowing, while the gap between their public image and their business moves is becoming more noticeable by the day. That contrast, according to him, is exactly what is catching attention at higher levels right now. He points to shifting media coverage, changes in major partnerships, and what he sees as a growing reliance on royal ties as part of their public identity. In his view, that mix is what starts raising serious concern behind palace walls.
Nobody set out to destroy you. You destroyed yourselves in this country with your ludicrous, hypocritical behaviour. The truth be told, what she just said is complete and utter garbage by the British media, the public and the royal family that they've all now abandoned. The
whole thing has been a scandal, not only in terms of Meghan Markle's destructive behaviour, but in terms of the remiss and negligent behaviour until recently of the mainstream media.
100%. 100%. Harry and Meghan Markle's surrogacy scandal has entered the mainstream media.
From that angle, this is not being treated like personal drama. It is being framed as something much bigger, something structural that could have long-term impact. The principle Piers Morgan keeps repeating is simple and straight to the point. If someone is not actively working within the royal system, then holding an official title becomes harder to justify in the public eye. He often points to examples like Zara Tindall, who built her public life without leaning on a formal title, showing there are other ways to move without depending on royal status. Once those examples come into focus, attention swings right back to Archie and Lilibet, growing up in California, far from official royal duties. Their situation adds a whole new layer to this debate because it raises questions about what these titles actually mean in today's world and how they apply across different lifestyles. This is exactly why the conversation keeps heating up. It is no longer just about tradition. It is about how those traditions are evolving over time and where the boundaries are being redrawn. And now here is the detail that really grabbed attention. There have been reports claiming Meghan could challenge any attempt to remove the titles through legal action, which would push this situation into an even more intense phase. That idea alone sparked strong reactions across the board, and Piers Morgan wasted no time calling it out publicly. His argument zeroes in on one major point. The authority behind royal titles comes directly from the crown itself. Because of that, any legal challenge becomes far more complicated than it might sound at first, at least in his view, and that is what makes this so intense. At the core of all this is control. Who decides what a title is worth and who actually has the power to take it away when things shift. There are also claims floating around about people being extra cautious behind the scenes, trying to protect themselves because there are just too many unknowns right now.
They're legally covering their backs. There's just too many unknowns. And then, of course, we have that the doctor that allegedly delivered Lily quit her practice 2 weeks after giving birth to Lily or delivering Lily. That sentence there is missing.
Meghan's Netflix series, released to the world this morning, is packed with, well, not really revelations, are they? It's sort of rehashed old revelations with a new twist. As it turns out, we've apparently been wrong all along. Britain is a nasty, racist hellhole where only magnificent Meghan stood up to all this and the world's biggest victim.
What I discovered was, of course, that she was hunting for a man in England from 2013 onwards, when her marriage had crashed and she couldn't find anyone in Canada at the time. And she wanted wealth and she wanted fame, and she targeted.
And then another detail pops up that has people talking. Even reports questioning timelines around Lilibet's birth and medical involvement, though those claims remain unverified and heavily debated. Beyond all the public back and forth about titles, there are reports suggesting something much more serious may be happening quietly behind the scenes. Senior advisors at Buckingham Palace are said to have launched what is being described as an internal verification review and it is reportedly focused directly on Archie and Lilibet. That alone is enough to raise eyebrows in a big way. This reported review is said to center on key details, birth records, official paperwork, and how everything aligns with their position connected to the crown. And Piers Morgan has been very clear about what this could mean in his view. He argues that the palace does not take steps like this unless there is a strong reason behind it, which is exactly why this story keeps gaining momentum. The monarchy can handle public criticism, but uncertainty, especially when it comes to lineage and official records, is treated on a completely different level. These are not small questions at all. They cut straight to the foundation of how the entire system is built and maintained, and according to ongoing reports, those concerns have now reached a point where they cannot just be ignored or brushed aside anymore. One detail pulling major attention involves Archie's birth certificate as a legal document tied to someone in the line of succession. It is expected to stay consistent, precise, and fully accurate at all times. However, reports claim that changes were made after it was first issued, and that alone has sparked a wave of curiosity and debate. It has been reported that Meghan's full legal name, Rachel Meghan Markle, was adjusted, with her royal title appearing instead. The listing reportedly read Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex, without a first or last name included. That specific detail has turned into a major talking point because in a system built on tradition and accuracy, even small edits can raise much bigger questions and keep the pressure building fast. In royal systems, paperwork is handled with serious precision, and changes like this are almost never random or casual.
They decide, okay, well, we have to come out and show the baby in some way, but we're not coming out to the street. The filthy masses are not going to have anything to do with our kid. So then they show up and there's Meghan in her white dress with Harry, and he's holding this completely still baby.
Also, let's remember that Meghan was hale and hearty at 8 months pregnant, having not gained a pound, having not shown, that's Spartan head. Is that the photograph where Archie does the deep dive between her legs?
Every single edit usually requires a formal request, clear approval, and a recorded explanation behind it. That structure is what keeps everything tight and credible, but this is exactly where things start to look a bit messy and raise even more intense questions. When questions started coming up about that change, the explanations did not line up at all. Meghan's team reportedly said the palace requested the adjustment, while palace insiders claimed it came from her side. Instead, two completely different versions with no clear overlap. There was no solid alignment and no detailed paper trail explaining what actually happened, and that is exactly what made people start looking at this twice. That is where the attention really builds, because once details stop matching, people start asking deeper questions. Then there is the birth announcement itself, and this is where the situation shifts even more.
That it just really kind of boggles the mind. I mean, just for titles, for example. So when Archie was first born, they said they didn't want him to have a title. He was going to be a private citizen. I was like, bravo, you understand. He's not going to be a working member of the royal family. He is going to have to live a normal life, get a normal job. That is fantastic. And then it came out later in the Oprah Winfrey interview. Well, they denied him a title and security because he is a mixed race child. And then it was kind of like...
And the two main feeders of the rumors, according to Lady C's book, Meghan was too big for, well, I suppose her first baby, and also too big for the fact of only having one child, and she seemed to be too big at the wrong time.
Traditionally, royal births follow a strict and clear format: official confirmation, medical verification from named doctors, and a formal palace announcement designed to remove all doubt. But in Archie's case, reports suggest that process did not fully play out in the usual way. The timeline alone caused confusion right from the start. The announcement suggested Meghan had just gone into labour, while other reports indicated Archie may have already been born earlier, and that gap raised eyebrows instantly. Hours reportedly passed without clear updates, which only added to the uncertainty and kept people guessing. There were no widely shared confirmed hospital details at the time, no direct public statements from medical professionals, and no independent verification released in that moment, which left many observers confused and questioning how everything unfolded. And here is the key point Piers Morgan keeps highlighting again and again. Unlike the announcements for Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, Archie's announcement reportedly did not include signatures from attending doctors. Those signatures are not just a small detail. They act as official confirmation within the royal system and carry serious weight. Without them, it naturally leads to more questions being asked, and it keeps the spotlight locked firmly on this entire situation as it continues to unfold. That missing piece alone has been enough to keep people talking and digging deeper into what really happened behind the scenes. Now the attention shifts to Lilibet, and this is where the conversation gets even more intense. Reports say this is the area drawing the most focus right now, and it is easy to see why. Her birth took place in California and was announced through Harry and Meghan's own team without the usual royal structure in place. There were no UK-based doctors involved, no royal medical staff present, and no formal palace bulletin released in the traditional style people are used to seeing. Even the symbolic touches that usually come with royal births were missing. No official notice placed outside Buckingham Palace. No carefully staged rollout like in past royal announcements. When you line up all these differences side by side, it starts to explain why so many people are watching this so closely and questioning how everything fits within royal tradition. But when it comes to a child connected to the British line of succession, tradition carries serious weight. This is not something taken lightly at all. Stepping outside centuries-old protocol is not something the palace typically overlooks, and that is exactly why these details are now being examined much more closely behind the scenes.
Markle gave birth to Lily because this is what's called plausible deniability. They want to be able to say, hey, we never claimed that she was our daughter in that announcement. They're legally covering their backs. There's just too many unknowns. And then, of course, we have that the doctor that allegedly delivered Lily quit her practice 2 weeks after giving birth to Lily or delivering Lily. That sentence there is missing. That is a vital sentence that Meghan Markle chose not to put in an official statement because she knows she would get into a lot of legal trouble and she needed plausible deniability.
And now it is the part reportedly causing the biggest reaction in royal circles. When palace advisors reviewed records tied to Lilibet's christening in California, reports claim they could not find an official entry. No registry listing, no confirmation linked to a bishop, and no acknowledgement connected to the Archbishop's office. That absence has quickly turned into a major talking point because in royal tradition, a christening is far more than just a symbolic moment. It carries formal and historical significance. Piers Morgan has been very firm on this, stressing that a royal christening is not just for show. It plays a formal role in connecting a royal child to the Church of England, which has deep and historic ties to the crown itself. So when those expected records do not appear in the usual way, it naturally raises more questions and keeps this entire situation under an even brighter spotlight. As all of this continues to unfold, the lack of documented connection is pushing more people to question how that relationship is officially recognized. And this is exactly why many say the atmosphere behind the scenes feels very different from what is shown online. The polished photos and carefully timed updates present one version of events, but according to ongoing commentary, there may be a far more complicated situation developing out of public view. He believes the current public image, brand deals, media projects, and overall positioning leans heavily on that connection to the royal institution. And if that link weakens even slightly, it could seriously shift how everything is viewed moving forward. He puts it in very direct terms, without the Sussex titles leading every announcement, every deal, and every partnership, the entire narrative starts to change fast. Instead of a royal connected identity, it becomes the story of two individuals who stepped away from the institution and then spent years publicly criticizing it. And in his view, that kind of shift does not strengthen the brand. It completely reframes it in a way that could be hard to recover from.
Harry has written extensively and they have commented extensively on her pregnancies with Archie as well as the birth of Lily. And remember, Meghan was so hungry as she was going to be pushing out Lily that they had to stop for, was it tacos at Taco Bell or some such, again, BS.
The point about Meghan is, it's easy to dislike her, but the point about her is that in her own terms, she is extremely astonishing success. She came from nothing, not a very successful actress. She had no money. She had no future after the Suits series in Canada. And suddenly she's an international star with quite a lot of money. And of course, in her terms, that's a great...
Then there is Harry, and this is where Piers Morgan highlights something he says often gets overlooked. Reports suggest Harry believed that no matter where he lived, even all the way in California, his children's royal status would always remain secure, almost untouchable, like it was permanent and could not be questioned. But now that belief is being tested in a serious way. There are claims that Harry has tried reaching out to senior royals, making calls that reportedly are not being answered, and that detail is adding even more tension to an already intense situation. The reason being suggested is simple, but it carries weight. When the palace moves into constitutional territory, emotions and personal relationships no longer lead the way. They step aside and the process takes over, moving forward no matter what. Piers Morgan has also been directing strong criticism at King Charles, making his stance very clear. In his view, there were several key moments where firm decisions could have been made after the Oprah interview, after major media releases, and after public statements, but each time no decisive action followed. According to Morgan, that hesitation is exactly what allowed this situation to grow into something much bigger than it needed to be. He argues that delays and silence created space for more questions, more speculation, and more pressure to build over time. There have also been comments and claims circulating about how different aspects of the situation were handled, especially around the births of the children, though those statements remain widely debated and not universally accepted. Morgan has made it clear he sees Prince William as someone who would take a more structured and firm approach. From that perspective, he believes William understands what is at stake, not just right now, but for the long-term future of the monarchy, especially with Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis expected to carry that legacy forward. The decisions made today could shape everything that comes next in a major way. So where does this situation go from here? That is the question everyone is watching closely.
Meghan was a geriatric mother, and geriatric mothers are treated with kid gloves. And everything Meghan has said about both those menses and the birth of those children is incredible in the true meaning of the word. Nothing that she says is, in my opinion, believable. Nothing, when you check it with doctors and nurses, nothing is usual or typical or indeed even recognized. I think she has shown herself to be one of the nastiest pieces of work that it has ever been the public's displeasure to witness.
According to those following these developments, there are a few possible paths being discussed behind the scenes, and one option being mentioned is what some describe as a quiet freeze, which could shift how everything plays out moving forward. One option being discussed is a quiet shift where the titles technically still exist but are no longer actively used or officially recognized. Instead of a loud announcement, they would slowly fade into the background over time, becoming less visible with each passing moment. Another possibility is a subtle reclassification. No headlines, no big statements, just a gradual adjustment where names are removed from official listings, placing Archie and Lilibet fully outside the working royal structure as private individuals. And then there is the third option, the one Piers Morgan suggests could now be seriously on the table. The one that, if it happens, could change everything in a major way. This final possibility is the most serious of them all, formal removal. If any reported review cannot confirm that royal birth protocols and lineage standards were followed in a way the institution formally recognizes, then the Crown has the authority to step in and make a direct decision. No public drama, no drawn-out back and forth, just a firm move made to protect the structure of the monarchy. And that is the part carrying real weight right now, because at its core, the system is designed to protect itself above everything else. Piers Morgan has stayed consistent on this point, but now it is hitting harder than ever as more attention builds around it. As the conversation grows louder, his view remains sharp and direct. The Crown endures no matter what. Individuals may come and go, but the institution continues standing strong through it all. He also highlights something else that is difficult to ignore. Over the past few years, Harry and Meghan have built a public image that leans heavily on their royal connection, which keeps pulling this entire situation back into the spotlight again and again. The titles, the legacy, the history, it is all tied together in one powerful system. But at the end of the day, the authority behind those titles still sits firmly with the monarchy itself. And if that authority shifts even slightly, everything built around it could shift just as fast, changing the entire picture overnight. From this perspective, it would only take one formal move from the top to completely reset how those titles are recognized moving forward. If that moment comes, the impact would be immediate and impossible to ignore. And now it all comes down to one major question that people are already debating everywhere. Does the palace bring everything into the open and address it publicly, or handle it quietly behind closed doors without turning it into a global headline? Either way, the pressure is building and the stakes feel higher than ever. This situation is still unfolding and it is not slowing down anytime soon. What do you think about all of this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and share this with others so you do not miss what happens next, because this story is far from over. See you in the next video.